It is Monday, and we are in week 4 already. Day 9 of introduction excuse me, to computers and information systems. We talked a little bit about the history today. We talked quite a bit about web access. Spent a little time on word processing, not a lot. I did not get to the objectives, but we will review those because the assignment for word processing, assignment number 2, word processing, that's due the middle of the week, and so we can go over some things dealing with that on Wednesday. A little, not a lot. We talked a little bit about learning. I talked a little bit about the outline and being, even though I'd say 90% of them look really good and 5% are close, and then we got a few that could use an improvement in terms of helping people learn. When we have this red define, we want you to look that up and then give your source of where you found it. In learning, here, we talked about change, and we talked about grit, and the grit report is due Monday, today, at the end of the day. Then we start talking about word processing. The first thing you need to be aware of is the idea word processing is a way to communicate using text, maybe some images, links right in the content. So a word processing software allows us to get a document to say what we want it to say. We can move text around, we can do spell checks and so forth. I think this is crucial. You want to make sure you're getting it to say what you want it to say. Then, this is a whole nother avenue. Making it easy to read, this whole idea of formatting. So formatting, then, we will take the information and maybe indent, maybe make some bullets, a lot of things to make it look the way we want it to look. Get the text in there and then make that text easier to read by formatting. Two major things then. We format and we edit. And then there are efficient ways of doing both of those. Now, let me move to the next thing. The web. Start talking more about the web, and it's a way to communicate. Right? The web is a way to communicate. In a lot of different ways. Okay? And is there really any regulation? Is there any overseeing? Is there anybody to oversee the web? Not really. Okay. We watched Matt Cutts. It's in the outline. Matt Cutts, and we watched how search works. So, and I like it. It really, search engines keep an index of the web. They use spiders to find the information. Billions of pages, hundreds of thousands of pages to search when you ask a question. Then it goes through all these things and try to figure out what's the best thing to return to you in the search. Matt Cutts, you can search for Matt Cutts, Google search, and you can find it, or it is in, this information's in the outline in Unit 2. Talk a little bit about hardware. Talk about memory, where things are stored that can be processed. More about that later. Talked about storage. So all of those things are hardware. electronic bus that transports this information through. Then we talked a little bit about this idea of how we communicate to a switch, and then to a multi-layer switch, and then actually it goes on to fiber. Let's go through a firewall to get here, and then we can get out into the internet through our internet service provider. And the internet service provider for NIAC is the Iowa Communications Network. Anything coming into the internet here, they all go through an internet service provider of some sorts or another. Okay? And the internet then just transfers the traffic through. So I did this. We talked about there's a server in my office that we're going to use for class, Bca-101 and that's running different services. So it's a server, and then we're going to access that server. Let's say if we do it from the classroom, from a PC, we can do this and access the information on the server. What are we going to access? Well, that is a couple different things, and one thing is it's serving up web pages. So we're going to access a web page the next time we meet. We didn't quite get that far today on that server. So us accessing it, we're the client, and we're going to access something from a server. Servers could have web pages on them. They could hold just data. A server could hold some apps. Some servers could be a combination. Okay, so we ask the server for some material and it sends it back to us. We're the client, and then we have the server. That'll make a lot of, like I said, that'll make a lot of sense, the server work, if it doesn't already, by the end of the term. Another example. Okay, I'm at home. I can leave home and I can access a website. It sends the information back. I can be the client. This can be the server. It's the same thing. I can be at home and I can go to Google. Maybe get some stuff off of the Google Drive. Right? Or work on it. I could actually work on it while it's sitting there from my computer at home. I'm the client. Here's some services they're serving up. Again, any access in has to be through an internet service provider. Mine happens to be Mediacom. Here's the colleges. So, when we talked about search, I asked, is it possible not to have a website searched? And it is. Let's just say in the banking industry, they may have some web resources. They might call them deep web. So they could have website information stored there and no way to search for it. Internally they can get to it, but you couldn't find it from the outside. Those spiders, you can block those from your site if you don't want your site to be searched, like deep web, or the other one, which we should stay away from, the dark web. Websites that don't show up in any search or don't have any URLs to get to them. You'd have to know a special way to access them. More later on the security end of things. Okay, so we should understand then this idea that there are web servers out there, we can access them and bring the information back. And we're going to look specifically at that HTML information that's being transferred between those. We'll look at some simple examples right here on campus. HTTP hypertext transfer protocol, that we can type in a URL, it gets an IP address, gets us to the web server, and sends what we want back to us. Almost done. Probably Thanksgiving. Good riddance. No. Anyway, almost done. Let's take a look at two more things. First of all, they talk about Sergey Brin and Larry Page created an algorithm for Google search. They were both students at Stanford. I'm not sure I spelled that. Take that D out of there. I think it's just Stanford. But anyway, they were students at Stanford, and originally it was google.stanford.edu. And then eventually, yeah, they left school and started Google. But they created their search engine while they were students. Alright, last thing today. Let's do this. Why do we use computers? They're extremely fast. There are some terms for you to look up. Microseconds, milliseconds, nanoseconds, so forth. Speed, bits per second. Million bits per second, 100 million bits per second, a gigabyte, a gigabit per second, so forth. Computers extremely fast. They can handle large quantity of information. They can manage and manipulate large quantities of information extremely fast. Okay? Nowadays, they're really accurate. If the software is written well and the data put in is accurate, computers will perform a function accurately over and over and over, which then leads to the last thing, is they become very reliable. Years ago, they weren't so reliable. Just like years ago, cars used to break down more on the road, or we used to get more flat tires, or whatever. Nowadays, you don't see it as much. You don't see flat tires as much. And same thing with technology. These computers are extremely reliable. Alright, well, that is it for today.